You guys know that pivots are my thing, and I love talking about pivots and making shifts in your business. And I had someone send me a question, and they wanted to know, how do you know when it's the right thing to do, when it's the right shift to make, when it's the right new offer to add? When you have this idea of something that you want to do, like, how do you know when you should go ahead with it, or if you should wait and let it simmer or percolate or whatever that might be? And I think that's a really good question, and my answer may surprise you a little bit, but I think that a lot of it, your best way to figure out if something is right for you is first to tap into your intuition. That may piss a lot of you off, but all I really mean is just sit with it and just see, like, what does it really feel like? Because there's a lot of reasons and that we can decide that we want to add something or do something. And it doesn't mean that the idea is right or wrong, but our reasoning for it could not be what is in the best alignment for us and our business. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples just so that I can further explain this, and then we'll come back around and talk a little bit more about really, tactical ways that you can sort of figure this out for yourself, because you guys know I love those leading questions. They're so helpful. So the thing about doing something new is that sometimes we just get a quick hit download of like, oh my gosh, that'd be such a great idea, right? Because creativity is problem solving. And, it's those ideas you get like when you're in the shower and you're not thinking about it. Often for me, it's when I'm driving. Like, I get the best business ideas when I'm driving. And, really all that's really happening is that you are opening yourself up for your intuition to take over, because that inside person is never going to lead you wrong. Like, they're your very best business partner that you're ever going to have. And so when we can get quiet and we can kind of let that take over instead of our brain, because our brains are just, I know my brain is like going crazy all the time. So we can just kind of let those ideas download, let our creativity take over, which is still intuition. So a lot of times ideas come like that. And I know that I have often, even though I'm not like an impulsive person, like when I get a hit like that, I'm like doing it. I'm doing it. But where I actually mess things up is like not going through the process of execution. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, well, was I wrong? Was my intuition wrong? And what I've come to realize over time and experience of doing this is that really it's not the idea that was bad. And it was just my execution wasn't true to the way that I usually do things, or the way that I know to do things, or the way I've learned the hard way to do things. And so the execution of it was really important. So it wasn't not taking the idea seriously. It was really thinking about that. So that's part of what I want to share with you today, is kind of like, once you get an idea, how do you sort of map it out, figure it out, and see what that's going to look like? Because that has a huge impact on the success of the shift that you're trying to make. But another way that we may feel that we have an idea is just out of trying to find a solution to a problem that we feel like we have. And if we're trying to solve the wrong problem, then we're not going to come up with the right solution for us. So, for example, if you feel like, I'm just not getting enough leads, I've got to do something that's going to help me generate some more leads like yesterday. And so you think, okay, well, I follow this, this other business coach or this other healer online, and she does lives and that's what works for her. I'm just going to do lives. I'm going to do it. But you get on and you do a live and it's just not really a thing. You feel really uncomfortable and then you don't do it consistently. Like, it's not that the idea was bad. It just wasn't the right thing for you. And also your intention may not have been the best. So of course we always want to get more clients, and we want to be seen, and we want to be visible, but we don't want to do something just because it's what somebody else does, because that's not really going to make sense for us, right? And so that's another way that you may get an idea, but really need to sit with it and think about it. And that's why we're going to go into those questions after I give you another example of what this might be. So another way that you may get some ideas and wonder if it's the right thing for you is just purely out of burnout and exhaustion, or, just feeling like really disconnected. And an example of this would be whenever I was in my design studio business, I felt like I got to a point where I noticed that I wasn't getting very excited about my projects. And it was almost like I'm ready for a new client, but not really. I'm ready to book somebody new, but I don't really want to do the work kind of thing. Um, and so I probably spent 6 months or so, like trying some different things and figuring things out, which led me to actually make a huge shift, right? And go into coaching and strategy. But I don't think that I would have arrived at the same place and with that kind of confidence and that sort of clarity of what I wanted to do to make that big change if I hadn't been through this other like 6 months of trying things out. So the first thing that I changed was that I realized that the experience that the clients were having and my experience with them was not as good if I let them take the shortcut and not go through all of my process because they wanted it at a lower price point. And so whenever I let somebody do that, it didn't turn out well. And so that's the first thing I did. I was like, we're not doing this anymore. I'm going to change the package where it's a higher price and you have to do this. And then when it came to web design, I decided that those intensive long websites were draining the crap out of me. And then I had an infant and I was like, I just can't. I just cannot do this. And so as much as I had rebelled against it from my like snotty programmer point of view, I guess, I decided to experiment with Squarespace and think about like it wasn't the web design that I hated. It was the long process was very draining. And so I'm like, how can I just change the process? So then I switched over into a 7-day turnaround for a Squarespace site. And I created a system around it where it was very fill in the blank. Like they have basically like a kit that I give them. They fill everything out. They turn it around to me. And so for a low price point with a low time investment, I could turn a website around in 7 days and I was done. And that felt like, I can't even tell you how much better. So you could see it was kind of a process of thinking like, having to figure out what exactly about this is bothering me and how can I do things differently and really, and then just like making these small changes around along the way and trying them out and seeing like, well, did this work? Did this not work? And also within those things, like there's a whole kind of process of letting people know, now I do 7 days Squarespace sites. You did know that I did WordPress. Now I do this. This is what this looks like. And so there's a lot that goes into that. And that's why it kind of spread out over a series of time. And then kind of getting to the end of that and thinking, the part that I really like, what I really love is people and talking about their business. And I would get a client who wanted a logo and color palette and all that good stuff. And we would spend 2 hours talking about their marketing plan. And I just thought, like, okay, and so when someone said, "Can I hire you to be my coach?" I thought, all right, this is definitely like what I need to really put some serious thought into this. So I hope those examples give you some ideas of kind of like what it could look like when an idea comes, and because they come in different ways. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about how to investigate and kind of see. So just the example I gave you about my studio business and kind of how I got here, I think is a good way to see kind of the questions that I was asking. So those are the really good things you want to ask yourself too. When you get an idea, ask yourself, why do I really want to do this? Because you want to figure out, is it because I don't like something I'm already doing? Is it because I just feel super inspired that this is a great direction for me? Is it because I've seen somebody else doing it? So you really want to figure out what problem you think that you're solving with this new offer. Is it the most amazing thing for your client? And you are like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think about this before? Or is it solving a problem of like time and energy and how you feel about your business? You really want to dig into that to see where your intention is, because you want to slow it down a little bit so that you can kind of take it apart and see the best way that you can do this. Because once you decide on an idea, then you really have to put it in play. And the best way to figure out how to put that new idea in play is, again, thinking about what problem were you trying to solve. So you can make these changes in these little micro steps to kind of figure out, is this right? Is this not right? You can always do research. So when I wanted to start a Facebook group, I'd been thinking about it. It's kind of like nudging at the back of my head. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Don't want to start something new. What is this going to look like? And some of the questions that I asked myself were like, my intention. So why do I want to do this? And the reason why is because I love talking to people. And I thought, if I'm spending time in so many other people's Facebook groups, like, well, maybe I should just have my own, right? And then I got a lot of people who were nice enough to get on the phone with me and tell me like what they liked about Facebook groups, what they didn't like about Facebook groups, some of the things that were happening and the ones that they loved the most. And then I actually just still sat on it for a while, because the third thing I had to figure out was, do I have the capacity to take on something new? And if I don't, am I willing to give up something to make space for this new thing? Now that one is a big one. So after you go through all the other questions and, why do I really want to do this? What problem is it solving? And thinking about your intention behind the new thing. The last part is, do I really have capacity for this? And if I don't, what am I willing to give up to make that happen? That could be a little bit of money, hiring a VA. It could be, letting go of an offer that's just like, no, it's okay, for something new. It could look like just knowing that you are going to maybe not do some other kind of work so that you have bigger blocks of time. I mean, it could be a lot of things, but it's really important, because if you immediately feel like, no, I don't have time for this, or no, I don't want to give up anything, then it's really not the right time to add something new. So I hope that that really helps you kind of think about little shifts, or maybe even big shifts that you may be thinking about making in your business. And it gives you a way that you can make some decisions so that you can implement in a way that your ideas, whatever they may be, really work for you.